The Lamborghini Super Trofeo is in Spain this weekend. We're at the Valencia circuit and we're getting towards the pointy end of the season, because after this there is a double-header event at the Vallelunga circuit where, because of a cancelled round or an interrupted round earlier on in the year, an extra event has been put on, and it will be at Vallelunga, followed by the World Finals weekend, which always includes the final regional rounds as well, if that makes any sense. In other words, now people need to start scoring well, because they're running out of options as far as the rest of the championship is concerned. And it is a very busy grid indeed that we have as the cars make their way up to the grid. We have lost one, I'm afraid, after a drama in qualifying earlier on in the day, but the race over 50 minutes with the mandatory pit stops is no doubt going to be a very good one indeed. Amaury Bonduel is the man that lines up on pole position, and alongside Brendan Leach, who took his first Super Trofeo win last time out at the Nürburgring. Pit window is between 20 and 30 minutes. If you're a solo driver, you stop for 89 seconds. If you're a double driver entry, it is 86. And the grid has lost from it the VSR entry of Giovanni Napoli and Pier Giacomo Randazzo. It was Randazzo that had a really nasty off this morning at turn 1. A lot of damage done to the car. He was okay, but the car battered beyond repair and therefore withdrawn from the races. Grid being formed. Brendan Leach then in the Leipzig Motorsport car on the outside of the front row of the grid. Matteo Moretti will start behind for Oregon team. And Brendan Leach, who we've kind of seen good things from in the past. I say kind of because his stints have been good, but the results have been masked a bit by the pace of a co-driver. Now he's on his own, so the New Zealander is able to show exactly what he is capable of. We did also see him on occasion in GT3 last year, and it will be good to have him back there again in the future. David Addison is trackside. Gemma Scott is down on the grid. Gemma has been busy finding drivers to have a word with, and I think the first on the hit list is Brendan Leach. In fact, the man that is second on the grid, looking for a second win of the season.
Brendan, you're currently leading the championship. There's a mega field behind you, and it's a huge fight, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a tough one. I think the track's pretty warm as well, so I'm sure there's a lot of drivers behind me that are hungry for a win and will have their elbows out, but you know, we just do the best we can, and the car feels really, really strong, so I'm looking forward to the race.
Have a great one. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers.
10.5 points up in the championship is Brendan Leach over the combination of Mattia Michelotto and Gilles Stadsbader. And then third, Sebastian Balthazar in the Oregon car that he shares with Marzio Moretti. That's the pro class. In Pro-Am, Alex Au and Frederick Schandorf leading there. Now Frederick Schandorf is away racing in America this weekend, so Patrick Kujala takes his place. Second in Pro-Am, Andrzej Lewandowski and Loris Spinelli. Loris Spinelli is away racing in America this weekend. So there's been a change of driver in number 16 as well. Artem Petrov takes over. Let's go back to Gemma.
Amaury, starting here on pole, you've got a tough job because you have no co-driver. This is going to be a long hour.
We are working a lot 15 days ago to make a good setup on the long race. I hope it's work, and I'm very happy to start on the pole for race 1 and race 2. But now it's important to confirm the pace.
Yep, and a safe run down into turn 1. Have a great race. Thank you.
Third pole of the year for Amaury Bonduel, but yet to win. So he wants to put that right in that very distinctive BDR Competition by Group Prom car that lines up on pole position. So it'll be a rolling start to this 50-minute race. Very shortly the cars will be released. Makes a welcome return actually to the Valencia circuit for Super Trofeo, because although this was the scene of the World Finals a good few years ago, it's been quite a long absence. So the championship returning to Valencia after a 6-year break. It was last here, in fact only once, back in 2016. 4 kilometres long this lap, and one of 4 Spanish circuits to have hosted Super Trofeo, the others being Barcelona, Jerez, where we went for the World Finals, and going back a long, long time, Navarra. And Gerard van der Horst is, I think I'm right in saying, the only person on the grid who has had a win in the series here, having taken 2 victories in the final weekend back in 2016. 618 drivers have taken part in Super Trofeo Europe so far over its history, and there is 1 Spanish driver in the entry, which is Guillaume Pujoy Baya, and he drives with Pedro Ebrahen, number 44, another of the Oregon entries. And Guillaume is in the car, ready to do the first stint, but is in a position to have a word with Gemma Scott down on the grid before he goes racing.
Guillaume, there's a lot of people hovering around the car. There's a lot of people here to watch you. This is your home race.
Yeah, of course, it generates me a lot of motivation, a lot of aim to do it good. So let's hope we have a good race.
Just quickly, going down into that first corner, there's a lot of traffic around you. It's going to be quite tough, right?
Yeah, quite tough. We know that this season we have a lot of cars, but it's also interesting because the GT World have also a lot of cars, so we need to get used to it.
Have a great race. Thank you very much for talking to us.
Thank you.
So Pujoy Baya lines up then in the Oregon entry that he shares with Pedro Ebrahin, number 44, the very distinctive Oregon colours that have adorned all sorts of cars over the years, from European and World Touring Car Championship Alfa Romeo 156s to Renault Clios to Lamborghinis to all sorts of other weird and wonderful things. Right, there's the grid, getting clear now as the VIPs, the team personnel leave. The last engineer will stay with the car for the 1-minute board to fire the engine with the driver, and then the grid will be cleared, and then we will be in business. So Brendan Leach, as I say, leading the overall situation. And Mattia Michelotto and Gilles Stadsbader, 3 wins they've had, but struggled a bit in the last race at the Nürburgring. Karim Ogier there, lining up for 15th on the grid. Car shared with Ella Dubeli. So the grid cleared now, and very shortly the cars will be released for the final warming up lap, and then 50 minutes of racing will be underway. Doors open just to try and get a bit of air into the cars. Just to finish off the way that the other classes sit, as far as the championship is concerned, the AM competition, led by Paolo Biglieri and Petar Matic. They've had 3 wins this year. They're ahead of Donovan and Luciano Crivitello in the Lamborghini, sorry, that's the Lamborghini Cup, not the AMS, forgive me. AMS is Gabriele Rindoni, who leads, 4 times a winner from Pierre Feligioni and Renaud Coupens. So we should be in business very shortly as the final few seconds of the countdown tick down. Driver's strapped in, ready to go, and they're looking across. Brendan Leach, 1-minute board shown, engines fire, the leading car gets ready to take them around on the formation lap. And a glorious sight and sound a full grid of Lamborghini Super Trofeo Huracans always makes. Variety of teams, everybody of course with the same base car, and the categorization is on, if you like, driver grading. It's not that there are different engine sizes or different spec of car. Everybody has the same type of car, and therefore it's separated into Pro, Pro-Am, Am and Lamborghini Cup, depending on driver ability and experience. So the Urus leads them away, goes down towards turn 1. In a moment, the green flag will be shown to release the cars, and the formation lap then is underway. So Amaury Bonduel in the gold car for pole position, and with him on the outside of the front row, Brendan Leach in the Lippert Motorsport entry. On the second row of the grid, he's going to be Marzio Moretti for Oregon, and another of the Oregon cars to line up alongside that of Alessandro Mainetti. Third row, Matteo Desideri and Emanuele Zonzini will line up ahead of them, Loris Kabiru and Abby Eaton in the Rebellio entry. Then you've got Artem Petrov lining up alongside Donovan Privitello, who had a really good qualifying ahead in turn of Guillaume Peugeot, and Bartosz Groszek is on the 6th row. Row 7, Paolo Biglieri, alongside him Lucas Valkra. Then you've got Karim Auger and Gilles Stadsbader, a long way back, one to watch that car. Then Michel Blanchemin, ex-GT4 racer, Shota Abkhazova comes next ahead of Hugo de Wilde and Wilfried Casalbon. Then there is the soloist, Jean-François Bruno and Adrian Lewandowski. He in turn is ahead of Pierre Feligioni. Another soloist, Jürgen Krebs, is next ahead of Antonios Vossos. Then Claude Gosselin on the 13th row ahead of Oliver Söderström and the returning Patrick Kuyler. Jelmer Berman, one to watch, a long way back after a red flag qualifying ahead of Ibrahim Badoué and Serge Doms from Yuri Wagner. Then you've got Edgar Mallorin and Gabriel Rindoni. Lorenzo Pegoraro comes next with Holger Hansen alongside. Then you've got Jose Alfredo Hernandez and Kurt Wagner. Eduardo Liberati, a long way back, another driver to watch, as alongside him is Carol Bash. Then Doug Bolger and Charlie Martin round out the grid. So the cars come then now side by side up towards the turn 12 approach. So there the cars then coming towards turn 13. The leading car will be in this time. We will go racing. 50 minutes are on the clock. Race 1 of the weekend in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. There is the view on board with Alex Al, Patrick Kuyler's car. Patrick Kuyler at the wheel of it. He'll be one to watch as ever. Very, very quick. Still a bit underrated is Kuyler, but very, very rapid driver indeed. Had a spell in British GT 2 or 3 seasons ago. So Brendan Leach on the outside, on the inside line, Amaury Mondial. The cars now make that run towards the timing line, ready to get the race underway. The leading Urus peels in. It's up to the front row drivers to control the pace then. The lights on the gantry will change to green any moment. The race to get underway. Bonduel makes a very good start. Brendan Leach not quite so quick off the blocks there and having to move across to defend, because up the inside line tries to go Marzio Moretti as they go down towards turn 1 then. Lots of smoke in the air from the Vol Race teams in the paddock, but as they dive through turn 1, 1 and 2 being a bit hesitant, and have the lights actually changed? No, the clock has started and an extra formation lap is called for. So although we've got a green flag on the timing screen, that's not been reflected in the race. So a second formation lap called for. The clock carries on ticking. This will all count within the 50 minutes, but it must have been an untidy start, and therefore the formation lap has been given again to try and get them, rather than stop and regrid and waste time, just give them another formation lap and hope that the drivers get the message about lining up properly. So the lights did not change, but it did go green on the screen, and it's gone green because the clock has started. So another formation lap. So have another look at the start. I think I'd said that Brendan Leach wasn't as quick off the marks as was Bonduel. It's a bit sort of messy further back, so the cars make the run towards the line, and away goes Bonduel. But the race director unhappy about that, and so the lights go back to red, and so the clock carries on ticking, but the cars will have to form up once again. So the instructions hopefully will be given to the teams to tell the drivers to get themselves in formation properly, and we'll go once more. So the drivers, if you like, penalise themselves by that, because there's therefore one fewer racing lap within this opening stint. They are getting themselves now back side by side. Drivers looking on in the pit boxes, and now we'll see hopefully the order restored and everybody survived, even though obviously the front of the grid had to slow right down, but no contact was prevalent. It means that we will go again then as the cars now come into turn 13. So, pole position, Amaury Bonduel alongside Brendan Leach. Bonduel's is the gold car, Leach in the yellow and black colours. And of course, because this is an anti-clockwise circuit, pole position on the inside line, going down the pits straight. So, Bonduel needs to make a tidy start, as does everybody else around him. The grid complete then, and slowly they make the run towards the timing line. It's going to give them about 47 minutes of racing, not 50 when we go green, and the lights still on red. Again, Bonduel accelerates away, but this time the lights do change. They do go green, and as they head off down towards turn 1, Bonduel leads the way. Brendan Leach goes after him, but he's a bit busy trying to defend from all the Oregon cars around him, one of which, Marzio Moretti, gets up the inside. Big scrum of cars arriving further back. I was rather fearful of contact there, but they've all managed to get through turn 1 safely, some going wider than others, but they have all made it through, as Bonduel then now tries to break away in this opening stint of the race. And there, Moretti all over the back of Leach for second place. The Nürburgring winner there hanging on to position, but only just as the cars now sprint from turn 4 to 5 for the first time. Privitello on the outside line in the white and blue colours. And here, Patrick Kujala hard at work, trying to haul that car from the Pro-Am class up the order to give Alex Au the best chance he can of taking the championship. Target racing entry, whoops, getting involved with traffic, one car sideways ahead. So drama further up the road, and 1 or 2 have picked up damage as a consequence of that. Yellow flags are out midway around the lap. Some leave the scene of the crime, but there was another car, the red car, that came across the front that was very out of shape and has got going again, so the road is clear. Bonduel, in the meantime, is breaking away, building that gap ever more. Goes now up through turn 12, further back there, you can see the car of Mainetti being forced out wide. Desideri on a bit of a charge as well as they head up towards the end of the lap then. So there, braking for turn 13, end of lap 1. Battles rage on all the way through the field. Number 10 to the inside line, the Iron Lynx entry, Hugo de Wilder at the wheel of it. Former single-seater racer. Very quick in Formula Renault, Formula Regionale a few years ago. Then he went into sports car racing. Son of Belgian PR and journalist Olivier de Wilder. Down now into turn 1 they go, with Bonduel leading Leach, Moretti in 3rd. Desideri is in 4th place, new to the championship this weekend. Zonzini is 5th, Artem Petrov is 6th. 7th is number 11, another of the Oregon cars of Alessandro Mainetti. In 8th place, Abby Eaton. 9th is Cabiru, and there's all the dramas in replay that kicked off at the top of the circuit. The red car that got all sideways was Michel Blanchemin. And this is how Patrick Kujala saw it all. It's kind of all happened ahead of it. Everyone checked up to avoid making contact, and Kujala in danger of getting into the back of others. So Bonduel leads the way, and Brendan Leach in 2nd spot, not really being able to go after him at the moment. Amaury Bonduel in need of a win. This could well be it, because Brendan Leach, even though we know he's fast, is for the moment at least not being able to do anything at all about the race leader. That gap is widening all the time. In Pro-Am, Emanuele Zonzini is the leader. In Am, it's Paolo Biglieri. And in Lamborghini Cup at the moment, Adrian Lewandowski is the leader. There's number 16 going through, which is the VSR car of Artem Petrov and Andrzej Lewandowski, Edwin's dad. And Artem Petrov guesting in the championship as Loris Spinelli is away racing in America this weekend. Lewandowski's regular co-driver, so Petrov goes through. But Bonduel to Leach, now that margin is a 1.5 seconds. Brendan Leach actually that time is slightly quicker, so the gap now coming down as he gets a little bit more confident and the tyres get a bit warmer. So the gap comes down slightly between the top 2. Marzio Moretti is 3rd, and then in 4th place, Matteo Desideri ahead of Emanuele Zonzini, who is still the Pro-Am leader. Big effort being made there on the inside line, and through goes 71 then. That's Edoardo Liberati. Up from near the back of the grid, charging, and 99 under attack, Yuri Wagner. That was Jelmer Berman, another driver trying to make good after a poor qualifying, looking to get past him. In 13, it is Edgar Marouin. That's the car that he shares with Stefan Guerin, but Amaury Bonduel continues to hold sway up front. These cars Charles makes. They rattle their way over the curves, they accelerate down towards the necks of the hairpins. You've got a lot of circuit all sort of folded in within itself in the mid part, that infield, very twisty. And then the cars climb a little bit up towards turn 12 and drop back down onto the pit straight for the end of the lap. This section of the circuit, though, takes them down towards turns 10 and 11. Battles rage on all the way around the lap at the moment. Number 9 going through is the target entry of Oliver Söderström, the car that he shares with Largan Ali. So Bonduel to Leach at the end of the lap. The gap is 11/10 of a second. Number 62 goes by, and that's the DL Consulting car of the Egyptian driver Ibrahim Badawi, solo driver, another driver new to the series this year. Super Trofeo seems to become ever more international. There's a very strong North American championship. There is the Asian series as well that's been able to restart this year. And there, on the inside line, number 8, the Privitello family entry. So Donovan Privitello, son at the wheel, but he's about to lose a spot because diving through there on the inside line, back up ahead, in fact, goes Kuyla, moves himself through. Kuyla away and gone now. So lead gap has been coming down and down and down. 4/10 pull back last time. Bonduel to Leach. Brendan Leach hustling on, bringing the margin down again in the first sector of this lap by doing an absolute best sector time. 33 and 11, all in differing amounts of strife there. Number 11, I think, outbraked himself, namely the car of Alessandro Mainetti. That brought into the mix Abby Eaton in the blue car, the Rebellio entry. And Abby Eaton in turn has got Ugo de Wilde tucked up behind us. So Abby Eaton, class winner in the old days of Blockpan Endurance Series at Monza, makes a move to the inside line but can't quite unsettle Mainetti. Dan Arrow will take over the car. Dan Pallas was, but got so fed up with nobody being able to pronounce his surname properly if they weren't Dutch, decided to change it to a rather more anglicised Arrow. So Dan Arrow will take over from Abby Eaton. Up towards the end of the lap they come. The race leader currently is only half a second to the good, so Bonduel is being most definitely caught by Brendan Leach. 10 minutes of the race done. Kuyla then, having got past Privitello, up into 14th overall, but still only 4th in class. Another big effort being made there, diving down towards turn 1, and through on the inside line goes Lorenzo Pegoraro, another of the Oregon entries. And Pegoraro now up into 22nd place at the expense of Wilfried Casalbon. This is for the race lead, and the gap has come right down. Amaury Bonduel just ahead of Brendan Leach. The two of them run together. So out of turn 8 they drop, short straight, the 9, 10, S, and then 11, but it's going to be when, not if. I think the effort is made, and it's going to happen right now by Brendan Leach. Lines up for the move on the inside, easily through on the inside of Amaury Bonduel. So there wasn't a huge amount of resistance put up by that. Brendan Leach caught and sails by. First sniff, and he goes through. Bonduel just ran out wide. Brendan Leach absolutely on the edge, as you see the car slide out of the S's there, coming out of turn 12. And behind, Marzio Moretti is getting closer and closer all the while. So poleman Bonduel is in danger of losing another place here if he's not careful. As bouncing out wide there goes Marzio Moretti in 3rd place. So the leaders come through once again over the timing line and down into turn 1. So the margin between the top two now to extend. Brendan Leach having caught very effectively, now trying to break clear. Further back, 27 you can see, is Loris Cabarrou, another GT4 graduate, and a whole train of cars here. Big move to the inside by Kuyla. Kuyla goes ahead of Cabarrou, and that puts Patrick Kuyla now 11th as he's continuing to make a way through. But the reason a few of them are out of sequence on the grid is because the accident quite early on in qualifying stopped it and it wasn't restarted. A lot of barrier damage was done, which delayed the programme by the best part of an hour. And so it meant that Q1 wasn't restarted. It meant that it's a slightly sort of topsy-turvy grid of those that had been able to do an early lap as against those that just weren't able. They made a plan to do it later in the session or whatever, but the session not being restarted went against them. So that's why it's a slightly, as I say, unusual looking grid, and 1 and 2 are having to push on now to get back into the mix. Marzio Moretti all over the back of Amaury Bonduel, playing into the hands of Brendan Leach. In the meantime, he's getting away, of course, here. So Bonduel under attack, tries to hang on as the field now comes towards 13, and up the inside dives Moretti, not quite able to make that move. I thought he was going to sail by, but he does force wide the French driver on exit. They're going to be side by side as they come over the line now. So Marzio Moretti is on the inside line. We've got a car in the gravel up at turn 8, by the way, but as they come down towards turn 1 on the inside line, Marzio Moretti should be able to go through, and he does go through up into second place. Bonduel fights back on the outside line at turn 2, but to no avail, and so through and hanging on to that advantage for second spot, Marzio Moretti. It's not just one car off the road, it is 2. There's one in the gravel, as you can see. I'm trying to work out who it is that we've lost. Possibly one of them might be Wagner and the other Pegoraro, because they're the 2 that haven't yet come through. So whether or not that's going to result in a full course yellow or a safety car, race director Alain Adon will decide. There, busy defending look, is Abby Eaton, number 33, Patrick Kujula up behind. Yellow flags in that next zone because of the cars being off the road. So fast part of the circuit this, turn into that long turn 8, and the safety car is being deployed. It is on standby, and we've gone safety car conditions now. So safety car is indeed deployed, and the race will be neutralised to get that car out of the way. The race will carry on, albeit under control conditions. So what that means for Brendan Leach and others is that any gap they had pulled will disappear, and all of this counts within the race duration. Now, we're not that far away, like about 5 minutes away from the pit window opening, so it could be that the window has to be delayed depending on how long it takes to get this car out of harm's way. So the field turning now through turn 1. Safety cars up at turn 2, and gradually the order will start to form up behind. Replay of the dramas as the cars plunge to the gravel. So Yuri Wagner's car is the one in the gravel. Pegoraro was the one that arrived on the scene behind. It may well have been that he missed his braking point and punted Wagner gravelwards. But the net result is that the cars need shifting, and we are under safety car conditions then here in Valencia. So Marzio Moretti, having got himself up into second place that lap before the safety car came out, ahead of Amaury Bonduel in third spot now. Brendan Leach, of course, the race leader. In fourth place is Mattia Desideri, ahead of the Pro-Am leader, Emanuele Zonzini. And then sixth and second in Pro-Am is Artem Petrov. Next in the Q7th, Hugo de Wilde, ahead of Gilles Stadsbader. Then you have got Alessandro Mainetti, and in 10th place, Abby Eaton. Stadsbader having clambered up into 8th spot. And remember that he and Mattia Michelotto were second in Pro in the championship, 10.5 points back, but triple winners. So you'd anticipate that car to be making a bit of progress, that's for sure. So cars follow the safety car. The smoke, if you can see over in the distance, isn't anything to do with the Lamborghini race. It's not a car in strife. There is what is called Vol Race here as well this weekend, which is a very popular Spanish sort of show and shine, tuning, drifting competition. They get to do parades, they get to do time trials and all sorts of things. And it is to do with that. I think they've got a drift arena down at that end of the paddock, and that, I suspect, is where all the smoke is coming from. In the meantime, drivers getting themselves ready for their stint. Bronek Formanek will take over from Karol Bash, and the safety car will be in this time, so we'll get the race back underway, which is the good news. It means it won't affect the pit window at all. So the cars head over the line, and there the race leader Brendan Leach has to do it all over again, but of course he is a soloist. Now, on the one hand, that's good because he knows that the car is like, knows what the track is like, knows what the pace of the car is like. The negative is that he's got an extra 3 seconds to serve in the pits against, for example, Marzio Moretti, who will give way to Sebastian Balthazar, or Alessandro Mainetti, who will give way to Filippo Berto. However, we know that Leach is very quick, so he should be able, I would have thought, to clear those 3 seconds. Maybe even before the window opens. Other drivers get ready. The Iron Lynx team, which has switched from being a Ferrari to a Lamborghini squad, Rodrigo Testa to take over from Hugo de Wilde. So we're good to go racing this time around, just pretty much as the window is ready to open. So, huge field, 42 cars we started with, 43 were on track for qualifying. We've lost a couple, I'll grant you, but it's still a very, very busy racetrack, and we're about to go back racing once more as the safety car will peel in. And they blast away, with Brendan Leach now trying to convert that lead into an even bigger gap. So 0.3 of a second the margin over Moretti as we go green once more. Amaury Bonduelle runs in third. Desideri is fourth. Zonzini is fifth. Sixth is Petrov. And the cars accelerate their way then now up towards turn 2. Still they stream even out of turn 14. 1 or 2 back markers trying to play catch up. But for the race lead now, Marzio Moretti trying to stay with Leach. The fascination comes as to when they elect to make their pit stops. And for Brendan Leach, the soloist, does he try and push on and stay in clear air for as long as possible, or get the stop out of the way early and risk rejoining in traffic? The one at the back is Kurt Wagner, who's a long, long way adrift at the moment, but he'll be the first one to be lapped, depending on when he makes a pit stop, as the rest of the field battle its way up the hill now towards turn 6. So Bonduelle under attack there, look, from Matteo Desideri. Desideri, who we've seen in World Challenge Europe this year, crawling all over the back of the pole position driver. But Bonduelle, even though he got a good lap in and was very pleased with pole, does not seem to have the pace, does he? Not only look is he dropping away from the leading 2, look at that queue of cars behind him. Cork in the bottle stuff now. Bonduelle just can't get away. Desideri, then Zonzini, then Petrov, then de Wilde, they're all up behind him, all glued to the back as the race leaders drop down towards turn 14. There are 4 seconds to go before the window opens, and counting. It's open now, so pit window is open. None of the leading group elect to come in as yet. No one does, diving out of the pack. I think that might be Gilles Stadsbader's car, and an incident between Pegoraro and Yuri Wagner under investigation, the one that brought out the safety car. Also in early, by the look of it, is Abby Eaton. Yes, so Gilles Stadsbader to give way to Mattia Michelotto, Abby Eaton to give way to Dan Arrow. They're all in early, and still pushing on lower down the order is Edoardo Liberati there in 71, getting up on the inside line. He will give way to Martin Rieber. Liberati the quicker of the two, so the result's going to come in this race potentially, but it was a bad qualifying. He was another driver that lost out with that stoppage. So the field turning through. We're on lap 12, 29 minutes of this race to go, and number 16 going through there, the VSR car of Artem Petrov, just ahead of Hugo de Wilde. Pit stop cycling through. And a very, very frustrated, was that Karim Auger? So, banging on the roof of the car. Brendan Leach, race leader on lap number 12, 0.6 of a second up on Marzio Moretti. Amaury Bonduelle running in third place. Now there, number 10, Hugo de Wilde, new to Lamborghini racing this year, but closing on Artem Petrov, former sports prototype racer. Petrov drops down towards turns 14 now, up towards the line. So now, look, Brendan Leach is going to find himself with a bit more traffic, because those cars that have made the regulation pit stop are rejoining either ahead, or in the case of the rest of the top 10, within. So there you've got cars rejoining. The pit out here is a bit of a talking point, because, of course, with visibility, with the head restraints and the wrap round of the car, it's hard to see cars joining from the pits if you're racing. So dispensation is given to cars to go wide, to go over the curb, to get out of the way if they're rejoining from the pits and that's not a track limit violation as a result. Number 9 you saw briefly there, Oliver Söderström. That was a car that was better placed early on. Now, has that made us stop? It has. Largin Ali has now taken it over. So this pit window ticks on down as there, Dan Arrow in 33, the Rebellio car. It is Rebellio, a new team, although the car ran out of the Bonaldi Motorsport table. But Bonaldi, one of the top, most experienced Lamborghini teams. Rebellio new into the sport this year and learning from Bonaldi as it goes. Harry Eaton having played a crucial part in the establishment of that team. Dan Powell, now Dan Arrow, who's raced in the championship before, knows his way around the cars. Good to have him back. So there is 81. That's the hard-charging Target Racing car, Patrick Kujala to Alex Au. It will be in that. Kujala, though, staying behind the wheel for the moment. More dive for the pit lane. So Marzio Moretti in this time out of second spot. Brendan Leach gets a free ride, if you like, for a lap or so. Doesn't have to defend now, then concentrate on his own line. So Leach can build the gap. Also down the pit lane has come, as you can see there, Amaury Bonduel. So the man that was on pole, Bonduel in, stays behind the wheel, but the penalty, if you like, for doing so is that it's a slightly longer pit stop, only by 3 seconds, but Bonduel will therefore lose 3 seconds to the opposition on his return to the circuit. Lots and lots of people being given track limit warnings down at the last corner and also at turn 1. But as yet, although we've got one on this final warning, and the car in question is the Oregon entry of Alessandro Mainetti, now being given over to Filippo Berto. Nobody has at least copped a penalty as yet. And no sooner said than done, because 27 does now get a penalty, and that's the Loris Cabiru Stefan Tribodini CMR car, Classic Modern Racing, and so that gets a 5-second penalty for track limit offences come the end of the race. 90 is in, so that's the GT3 Poland car of Holger Harmsen, the German driver. The car runs in Am and is about to rejoin. Race leaders then, still with a pit window open for 5 more minutes, press on. And there, down towards the end of the lap, comes Matteo Desideri in the DL consulting car. Federico Schonti, he will hand it over to, and Schonti, very quick mid-jet racer, now turning his attention to Lamborghini Super Trofeo. So the pack pouring its way down that long pit straight. Back out on track there, you just caught a glimpse of 62, which is the Ibrahim Badawi car, the Egyptian Am, the Lamborghini Aroma dealer-supported entry. So race leaders then currently on to lap 15. Next one for the pit lane is 18. And that means that this time it's Karim Auger to give way to Ella Dubli. So the other Boots and VDS car, I think, must have been Feligioni giving way to Renault Coupens, who was the rather cross one earlier on, banging on the roof of the car and on the rear wing and not being terribly happy about life. Under attack there, look, is Alessandro Mainetti, and he has to go wide. Charging through on the inside comes Patrick Kujala. Kujala on a charge, no question about it. And there is the race leader into the pit lane. So Brendan Leach comes in. 89 seconds the pit stop has got to be. 86 it is for the double driver entries. So the car stops. Lights on the back flash. Tyre pressure is checked and adjusted if necessary. But while the car is sitting there, do whatever work you can to maintain that advantage. Kujala, meantime, still pressing on, still yet to stop. hand over to Alex Au, the Hong Kong driver, who elected to do his racing in America and Europe in the last few seasons, whilst travel's been a bit of a drama. Sort of base yourself in a different country and then you can go racing, although happily Asia opening up once again now. So Patrick Kuyler presses on and will be able to possibly ring out one more lap, but he might be playing it safe and coming at the end of this lap because there's just about 2 minutes on the clock. So, yeah, he'd be cutting it fine, I think, to try and do one more. Brendan Leach rejoins and should therefore be able to maintain position as best of the stoppers over the Oregon entry, which will now be Sebastian Balthazar having taken over. Kuyler did go through, did stay out for one more lap, as did Emanuele Zonzini. So Alex Au awaits, and a spin there, rejoining, but time lost by the Serge Doms car, another of the BDR competition by Gruppo Prom entries, but the Belgian driver gets going again. Doms, in fairness, was quite a long way down the order anyway. That will not have helped, but the good news is the car is still in the race, undamaged. Kuyler then with a rather messy screen in the traffic, trying to carve a way through. Another battle pack coming out of turn 8. Kuyler on the tail of it. And Zonzini, the current race leader, not that far up the road. So Emanuele Zonzini, another driver who needs to come in and serve the regulation stop this time, holding sway for the moment. The Oregon car there, you can see number 44 is that of Guillaume Pujol-Bayer. Now Pedro Ibrahim, so the Brazilian driver takes over from the Spaniard. That's Zonzini leading on the road, and he needs to be in this time. He's got Kuyler right up behind him. Patrick's going to have a look, is he? But if he's coming in, he can't really afford to be on the wrong part of the racetrack. They're in together with just 20 seconds or so to spare before the window closes. So well timed that by the two teams. Down the pit lane comes Zonzini, down the pit lane comes Kuyler. Patrick Kuyler to give the car to Alex Au, and the Iron Lynx car, Emanuele Zonzini, to give way to Emanuele Colombini. Meantime, Brendan Leach presses on track. And he wants his lead back, of course, having been the leader before the pit stops. The track limit warnings for all cars now reset, with everybody having made their pit stops. And the pit window is effectively now closed. So Colombini to join in. The speed of one of the cars in the pit lane is under investigation. The car in question is Carimoge, now El Doubeli's car. Wilfried Casarbon in the pit lane as well. Carol Bash in the pit lane as well. So the order shuffles again as a legacy of all of this. The last few stoppers rejoin. So the leaders go by, and new race leader is now Sebastian Balthazar, because he is ahead of Brendan Leach. So the Oregon car, number 61, just out of shot, leading the way. There is Colombini. Alex Au joins the race as well. So at the end of the next lap, we'll have a proper chance to look at the order, but the Brendan Leach car down now behind that of Sebastian Balthazar. Dive up the inside from Enrico Testa, he goes through. Amaury Bourduel in the queue of cars as well here, and Alex Au has taken over 81. Alex racing here for the first time, so the Hong Kong driver learning and learning fast. So this is the race lead battle then. There, the Oregon entry. Sebastian Balthazar just ahead of Brendan Leach, 0.3 of a second it was when they went across the line. Brendan under attack early on in the race and was then able to push his way forward. Well, now he's got to do it all over again. Part of that, of course, is the longer pit stop. So by being in the pits for longer, that has enabled Balthazar to jump ahead. Sebastian Balthazar having taken over from Marzio Moretti.
Drive-through penalty to car 33, pit stop infringement. 33, drive-through penalty, pit stop infringement.
That was the Abbott Eaton, now Dan Arrow car. So the voice you've just heard is the race director, Alain Adon, and the penalty is for a pit stop infringement, which could be the regulation time not being adhered to, or it could be something rather more serious. But either way, a drive-through is what they get. So Balthazar leads Leach, and the car with the penalty was third. So Dan Arrow will give up a possible podium by having to serve the drive-through, and that means this car, the 78, up into the top three. Emmanuel Colombini at the wheel of it, and it's going to gain another spot very shortly. That said, Rodrigo Testa is right up behind them and looking menacing. Goes through indeed on the inside, down at turn 4. So Rodrigo Testa dives through on the inside line. Another battle going on here is Pedro Ibrahim ahead of Federico Schonti. This is for 11th and 12th places. But of course they also could benefit once Dan Arrow serves that drive-through. Very, very deep there goes Ibrahim. That opens the door for Schonti, but he can't find a way by. So the midget racer stuck behind for the moment. Pedro Ibrahim, again, new to Super Trofeo this year, learning a circuit, coming under attack.
Drive-through penalty, car 1818 for speeding in the pit lane.
So that's the Carimoge car speeding in the pit lane. 65 has had a moment as well. So that rejoins undamaged, but Jürgen Krebs' Leipert entry facing the wrong way for a moment. So drivers getting in all sorts of muddles at the moment, one with penalties and spins. 44 wide coming onto the pit straight.
Drive-through penalty to car 5. Drive-through penalty to car 5. Pit stop infringement.
Number 5 being Gregor Machulski and Adrian Lewandowski's car. I'm pausing, waiting for Alan to tell me the next penalty. We've got track limit warnings, but we'll wait and see if anybody else cops a post-pit stop penalty. In the meantime, Balthazar leading. And Brendan Leach, actually, not being able to get on with the job of closing for a move here. Sebastian Balthazar, another experienced Super Trofeo racer. Good to have him back in the championship, maintaining the advantage over Leach. There, Dan Arrow, who's yet to serve that drive-through, needs to get on with it, because if you have more than 3 passings at the timing line after the penalty was issued, you get yourself in hot water. Move on the inside line there. Matteo Michelotto goes ahead of Amaury Bonduel. So the pole position driver, no question, is fading away here. Might be the car, might be the driver, might be a combination, but the pace just ebbing away. Leaders come through once more. Number 6 you're looking at is Matteo Michelotto. So he's taken over from Gilles Stadsbader and is hustling on in pursuit of Emmanuel Colombini, who is there leading Pro-Am. Colombini in the Iron Lynx entry. Iron Lynx new, if you like, for a full season, although they did guest at the end of last year in Super Trofeo, but now Lamborghini partners, and looking very, very strong indeed. Interesting to see how many customers have moved across. Dan Arrow is now in the pit, so he's turning that drive-through. More drive-throughs to come for others. And a time penalty, as there on the inside, Michelotto gets ahead of Colombini. A time penalty is being given to the Ugo de Wilde Rodrigo Testa car of 0.12 of a second for being short on the pit stop. That's the leading Am, number 62, the DL car of Ibrahim Badoui, the Egyptian driver. got himself in a whole load of traffic with just 13 minutes of the race to go now. But Ibrahim Bedoui is ahead of Gregor Mochulski, who's another driver that's going to serve a penalty. And then Jean-Francois Bruno is the third in AM. Number 13 there is the Stéphane Guérin driven car out of Pro-Am, the Arcadia racing car. That was delayed early on. And leading in Lamborghini Cup is now Luciano Privitello. This car qualified well, but has sort of dropped back over the course of the race as those that were out of position have got themselves where you would expect them to be. So Privitello senior, Luciano, is now in 23rd position, but still leading the class. Another Iron Lynx entry. Switching teams for this year, the Privitellos. So Sebastian Balthazar getting away here from Brendan Leach, building that gap over the course of the stint quite happily. Further back in the queue, number 27 is Stéphane Tribodini at the wheel, having taken over from Loris Cabirou. And the Oregon cars getting themselves together there. Pedro Ibrahim ahead of Filippo Berto. They are on the same lap, they're fighting for position, they are fighting for 11th place, and Berto goes through, and Lagim Ali, number 9, squeezes up the inside as well, so good past that as Pedro Ibrahim gets roughed up a little bit and loses 2 places in one corner. So there is Andrzej Lewandowski at the wheel of 16, Lewandowski senior, who's been a regular winner of classes and races in Super Trofeo, whether it's been in the championship or the
Drive-through penalty to car 64, did not respect the starting procedure, gaining position during the formation lap.
And that's Antonios Vossos then, who's been given a penalty for gaining positions on the formation lap. So that's been looked at by the stewards and the penalty comes. So right now, there are just over 10 minutes of the race.
44, 5-second time penalty, disrespecting track limits.
Pedro Ibrahim in 44 being given the penalty. So 10 minutes to go. And there, number 50, Federico Schianti, on the back of Andrzej Lewandowski, who in turn, of course, has taken over the VSR car from Artem Petrov. Schianti is in Pro, Lewandowski is in Pro-Am, which is being led by Emmanuel Colombini at the moment in the Iron Lynx car, number 78, much further up the road. So lap 23 being worked by the race leader, Sebastian Balthazar, now 2.5 to the good. That is Lewandowski. Big slide, gets all crossed up, goes wide, loses a place. Federico Schianti through on the inside, and Stéphane Tribodini in the blue and orange car lines up to have a go as well. But a little mistake forced out of Lewandowski, and it's had big consequences, cost him a place. Doesn't hurt him necessarily in class, he remains third in Pro-Am, but it does drop him further away from Alex Au, who was the driver he was chasing after. So Andrzej Lewandowski will be somewhat annoyed with himself. Here's the replay of what he did. Little twitch coming through 9 and 10. Tries to slow the car down, but the back just breaks away. Caught it well, but it was enough to drift him out wide, and the momentum lost, followed by a place lost. Way off the racetrack there, into the gravel goes 81. What was all that about? So that was Alex Au going off the road from second in Pro-Am. Whether he was looking at what was going on behind him or has a brake problem, time will tell, but just seemed to drive straight off the road into the gravel. So Alex Au in real problems. He's got a brake issue. Looks okay now, but will have lost out to Federico Schianti. another heavy braking zone here, but Alex Zhao looks to be okay. Because the car turned in all right from the clipping point. So the leader, Balthazar, comes through, 7 3/4 minutes on the clock still. Goes over the timing line. And the gap is down a fraction now to Brendan Leach. 2.5 it was, 1.3 it is, so gap is coming down a little. In third place is Rodrigo Testa. Matteo Michelotto is fourth, and then the Pro-Am leader, Colombini. Emmanuel Colombini in fifth. Henri Bonduel from pole, sixth. Big battle going on here. Down towards turn 1, and on the inside line there, number 15, Doug Bolger, fending off Jim Pla. Jim in business in GT3 as well this weekend, and Jim Pla to the outside line, gets run out wide, can't do it there, but the Anglo-Japanese driver, Doug Bolger, having a real good learning battle here. Jim Pla knows pretty much every trick there is, and if Dougie Bolger can fend him off, then it'll be much to his credit. Except he then makes a tiny error, the car twitches a little bit, and Jim Pla to the outside, they touch, that breaks the suspension on Bolger's car, that's him done. Big hit, big damage. So Doug Bolger out of the race. He's going to try and limp it back, but effectively it's on 3 wheels. And so Doug Bolger and Jim Pla collide. They were battling for 16th, but that's the end of Doug Bolger's race. So, a little twitch, went wide. That gave Jim Pla the chance to be alongside Bolger, trying to move across for his line. Side connected to Jim Pla's car, and that hit straight away, broke the suspension. Into the last 6 minutes of the first race of the 2 here this weekend. Sebastian Balthazar still just being able to maintain the advantage over Brendan Leach. The gap was down a fraction. It's crept up again, however, last time through. Another rather braver effort. That's Tribodine on the inside. No, it's not. That is 75, in fact, making the move. The car now of Igor Orochev. Couldn't quite find a way by, but not for the one of trying. That's Bonduel, who has just not been able to deliver on pole position, has he? And he's in danger of losing another place to the less experienced Federico Sconti, who is right up behind. Drivers watch on from the pit lane to see what their co-drivers might be up to, but Bonduel here just fading, fading, fading. So Bonduel turns out of the hairpin. And the incident between Pla and Bolger, no further investigation required. Race officials have had a look and said, yeah, no, that's one of those things. So no further investigation required. Doug Bolger out of the race. Jim Pla persevering in 16th. The car might not feel quite as it did, but it is still going. Another challenge being made now. So Bonduel is about to lose out to Sconti as they come onto the pit straight. Federico Sconti on the inside line, and should be able to make that move and make it stick down towards turn 1. 4 minutes on the clock now. Through they turn. Sconti is ahead, goes out wide, but he has made it stick. He's done it, he's gone through. So Federico Sconti up into the top 6 now, and Amaury Bonduel falls to 7th from, remember, pole position. Lead us through once more. And Sebastian Balthazar 2 seconds clear now, so continuing to build that gap. It's getting ever more difficult then for Brendan Leach to have an answer. Here is number 10, the car of Rodrigo Testa, making a mistake. Door opens, and through for 3rd goes Matteo Michelotto. So Rodrigo Testa, a car with a time penalty anyway of 0.2 of a second, now losing a place on the road. Again, a little error, just goes too deep.
50. 5-second time penalty added to the final racing time for disrespecting track limits.
And that is the Matteo Desideri, now Federico Sconti car. So even though he's just gained a place at the expense of Bonduel, Jonty is going to be given this penalty. Right, the leaders come through then. 3 minutes and counting. Balthazar in the traffic, goes through, looking as though a race win is going to go his way. So through goes Sebastian Balthazar. And all of this, of course, is going to be very, very good news as far as the championship hopes are concerned for Balthazar and Marzio Moretti, because they are third in the championship. They've had one victory already this year. That came at Paul Ricard, but the second victory of the season would certainly be a good result. Brendan Leach, the championship leader, banking points. And he will, of course, outscore Matteo Michelotto, who is now up into third place. Won't outscore by many, but he will outscore, and that's important. So there's going to be one more lap at the end of this. Sebastian Balthazar up towards turn 12. Goes through that little S, and then as the road climbs over the brow, drop out of turn 13 to the tighter 14, and then to the end of the lap. A lap is 1 minute and 37 at the moment. There's less than that left in the race. So last lap underway when he crosses the stripe for Sebastian Balthazar. Good first stint in the Oregon entry by Marzio Moretti. And Balthazar it is, who starts the last lap. Brendan Leach has closed up in the traffic, 0.6 of a second back. So is he near enough to make a move? It would be a bold move, and it might be a risky one, but he might, because of the back markers, just think it's worth having a go. Let's see. Moretti, now Balthazar, 61, gets through the traffic. So the last lap of the race, Sebastian Balthazar leads the way, and there the traffic beckons up the road. He's still being caught by Leach. Out of turn 6 they come now. Short straight, speed building as they go across this sort of back range of the circuit, but the back markers ahead are going to be exactly what Sebastian Balthazar does not want to worry about on the last lap of the race. Here they come, down towards turn 8 now. Brendan Leach closing right up. So can he be very, very brave and very opportunistic? Down towards turn 9. Yes, he can! Sends it up the inside and dives through. Brendan Leach on the last lap goes through. Great use of the traffic, and he's got the race lead back. Fantastic move. So Leach leads, and Sebastian Balthazar being a little bit cautious, put off guard, and Leach totally committed to the inside line, dive bombs him, goes through, takes the lead of the race. And now Sebastian Balthazar is going to be furious. Leach blocked him in the traffic and dives up the inside there. You can see of Mark Rostan. Checkered flag is going to be at the ready, and it is going to be a second win for Brendan Leach, and a great way to do it as well. Leach wins in Valencia, second Sebastian Balthazar and co-driver Marzio Moretti, and then third Matteo Michelotto and Gilles Stadsbader. So Brendan Leach extends the advantage in the championship even more with a race win. More battles to be completed, including the Pro-Am winner for 6th place there, Emmanuel Colombini, coming through ahead of Lagamali. Cars spun in the background, look down at turn 14, and that is trying to rejoin. And it is 81, Alex Au, who was off the road earlier, and he's had a spin, he's fired it up, and he's got to wait for a gap in the traffic now, which he eventually finds. So this is what happened to Alex Au, coming up to the checkered flag. So out of turn 13, down through the gears, and all of a sudden around it goes. Now, was that a whack in the back? I think it was, looking at the car of possibly Holger Halmsen fleeing the scene of the crime from another angle. Let's have a look. But either way, a big spin, a costly spin for Alex Au, dropping him in the end to 21st, and he tumbled down the order in class. But what a drive by this man, what a move. Brendan Leach, he closed, dropped back, closed again, but certainly he was better in the traffic, pure and simple, than Sebastian Balthazar. Took a greater risk and very opportunistic, as he saw slight hesitation from Balthazar in the back markers. So Brendan Leach it is who takes the overall win from Sebastian Balthazar and Marzio Moretti in second place, and then third Mattia Michelotto and Gilles Stadsbader. Pro-Am won by Emanuele Zonzini and Emmanuel Colombini from Andrei Lewandowski and Artem Petrov, and third Pro-Am went to 75, Igor Oroshev and Shotral Kazova. In the AM class, honours there to 62, the car of Ibrahim Badawi from Jean-Francois Bruno and then Gabriel Rindoni. So Brendan Leach, the overall winner from the Balthazar Moretti entry. Michelotto and Stadsbader third from Testa and De Wilde, Federico Scionti and Matteo Desideri. Fifth ahead of Emanuele Zonzini and Emmanuel Colombini. Oliver Söderström and Largim Ali. Next from Amaury Bonduel from pole, only 8th. Then Andrei Lewandowski and Artem Petrov 9th, and Stefan Tribodini and Loris Kabiru rounding out the top 10. The winners in Lamborghini Cup will be 65, I think I'm right in saying. Jürgen Krebs from the car of Jason Keats and Charlie Martin. And third in class, Keats and Martin. Second is the car of Paolo Biglieri, that's right, number 32, that he shared with Petar Matic. So happy drivers, happy teams, and we might be able to hear from the race winners in a moment or two, because Brendan Leach and the Leipert driver very happy indeed. Milan Petele has just been given a 30-second penalty for causing a collision, incidentally, but Brendan Leach wins and he's with Gemma.
Brendan, congratulations. That was a mega last couple of laps.
Yeah, thank you. You know, the Leipert have prepared an amazing car. You know, we were unfortunate this morning. I know we were on the front row, but we had a problem with one of the tyres, and it, I mean, we couldn't show the proper performance, but this afternoon, the daylight, Team Huracan was on fire again, and yeah, I can't thank the team enough. Yeah, mega.
Absolutely, and that keeps control of the championship fight. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So this was the move from another angle. So he closed right up coming through turn 8, and Sebastian Balthazar closed on the traffic. The road just opened up for Brendan Leach. He was committed, and there was no way that Balthazar could get back across in time. He just had to let him go, otherwise there would have been a collision. So a proper dive, really good send up the inside by Brendan Leach, and he takes the race win, a very well-deserved race win as well. So the drivers making their way in due course to the podium.
Wow. Wow, wow.
Some very happy drivers from the classes. Emmanuel Colombini, Emanuele Zonzini celebrating in Pro-Am, the Iron Lynx drivers. And everybody being told to look at the camera, and a big wave from the fans, of the family. So, a very lively race, a lot going on in our first Super Trofeo race of the weekend. And it began with Brendan Leach diving into the lead, as behind him, the car of Marzio Moretti dropped back a little bit. There were some good battles raging on around the first part of the race. And one driver absolutely on his toes, pushing forward, Patrick Kuila, with a few dramas ahead of him that rather opened up the road. Amaury Bonduel ahead of Brendan Leach, and it wasn't long before Brendan did a dive up the inside, kind of telegraphing what he would do later in the race. Bonduel fell away and ultimately ended the race a long way back in only 8th position. Bonduel also lost out to Moretti, came diving through up towards turn 2. When the pit window opens, the regulation stops, cycle through, and in came Gilles Stadsbader to give way to Mattia Michelotto, as after the pit stops, Brendan Leach found himself bumped back down into 2nd place with a longer pit stop served under the regulations. Contact when Doug Bolger collected Jim Pla, that put Bolger out of the race. So with Bolger's car broken and battered and out of the race, Jim Pla carried on for 13th, and on the last lap, Brendan Leach dived up the inside, went through to retake the lead, a move that you don't often see, but a greatly executed one and a second race win of the year for Brendan Leach in Lamborghini Super Trofeo. So the podium is ready. Drivers hopefully are on their way. So the trophies are ready, and then drivers will be there shortly. Another race tomorrow, and then you've got to round out the season 2 weekends at Vallelunga. The championship should have kicked off supporting an ELMS race at Imola. Couldn't work on the circuit, meant that the event was postponed. Super Trofeo's calendar needed to find an alternative, and effectively with the infrastructure in place for the World Finals, going a bit earlier and running another weekend was the best option. Kind of gives the European teams a chance with a bit more mileage going into the World Finals. However, that is the decision that has been taken. So the pit lane, the teams await. There will be more action on track shortly here at the Circuit Ricardo Tormo, just outside Valencia, midway between the city and the airport. And lots of Valentino Rossi fans have enjoyed their GT race that they were witnessing him in earlier on. Vol race, which is the other supporting fair to come at the end of the day. So as far as the championship is now concerned, Brendan Leach leads overall. He stretched that margin over Mattia Michelotto and Gilles Stadsbader. Marzio Moretti third, sharing with Stefan Balthazar. Then you've got Amaury Bonduel from Rodrigo Testa and Hugo de Wilde next in the standings. So Brendan Leach, the race winner, and in super slow-mo you can see just how hard he was working that car. So the Lippert entry, and in a way it's certainly helping Brendan now by being a soloist, because you can get a proper idea of his pace, and taking win number 2 of the season. Hopefully on the back of this we might be able to see him back in GT3 racing, which he's been an occasional visitor to, but never really with a top-line drive, but that would be nice to see change for the future. So the class winners head to the podium. The top 3 in each of the classes join them. Cars that retired being retrieved from around the circuit, and some of the teams with a long night to do some work on the cars, others rather less so, and can enjoy the Lamborghini hospitality in anticipation of race 2 tomorrow. They don't need to go out and qualify for it, that's already been done. Right, so drivers come to the podium. So for third place in the overall competition, Mattia Michelotto and Gilles Stadsbader arrive. There for second place, no doubt a rather frustrated Sebastian Balthazar and Marzio Moretti. And for the top step, Brendan Leach wins here in Spain. So the applause for the drivers, the anthem for the winning team is what you've heard. And Federica Tenegi, the series coordinator, comes forward with the trophies. For the third, for the second, and then for the race winner, Brendan Leach receives the trophy. So the drivers all get together on the podium. photographs taken, and the different emotions of the top three evident as some run for it. Brendan Leach stands his ground and awaits a soaking. So the bottles clink. Brendan Leach takes the win. And a great job done. It looked at one point as though he dropped back a bit too much, but able to turn it around right at the very end, and that dive up the inside was quite something. The cars coming down the pit lane are those for the GT2 series race, but in terms of Super Trofeo Pro Am points, Alex Au now only one up on Andrzej Lewandowski. Frederick Schandorf third, ahead of Loris Spinelli, so the two absent drivers third and fourth. Jelmer Berman and Nigel Skundervoort is next, ahead of Emanuele Zonzini and Emanuele Colombini. That win has helped them come back into the equation. Pro-Am teams then on the podium, nearest to us, Shotrab Karzava and Igor Orodchev. The other end of the podium from VSR, Andrzej Lewandowski and Artem Petrov. And on the top step, the winners, Emanuele Zonzini and Emanuele Colombini. Trophies then to the winning drivers, and Emanuele Zonzini, Emanuele Colombini very, very happy, and that brings them back towards the pointy end of the Pro-Am standings after a pretty tough start to the year, but they're back, and hopefully with that pace we'll be able to continue to the end of the season in a competitive vein. First victory of the season for the Iron Lynx drivers. So the winners do it the new quick way, bang the bottle, that certainly makes it spray, and celebrations for Emanuele Zonzini and Emanuele Colombini. They are very happy indeed with the first victory of the season, and can they fight back enough before the end of the season to be a factor at Vallelunga for the championship. Shotrab Karzava with the blue boots leaves the podium. And as far as AM is concerned, their podium coming up, Gabriel Rindoni now is the championship leader from Ibrahim Badawi. First season of racing, and on new circuits, he's doing a really good job from Renaud Coupens and Pierre Feligioni next in the championship. Then Elo Dubali and Karim Auger behind. So the AM drivers will go to the podium next. Teams all ready to celebrate. So there they are. Flags arrive and celebrations for the AM winner, Ibrahim Badawi. The Egyptian driver takes a maiden win. Great effort by Ibrahim Badawi, and doing a very good job indeed. Marco Picci, the project manager for Lamborghini Squadra Corsa, hands over the champagne and the trophies. And race 2 tomorrow should be another lively affair. Join us for that if you can. For now, from Valencia, goodbye from all of us.